Number 7, and notice number 7 is to make a decision. Notice you make a decision before all 8 steps are actually up. So you make a decision. It says, I have a text, choose you this day whom you will serve. Don't wait on the fleece. You know, Gideon put out the fleece and the ground was wet, and he said, that's not enough of a sign. He put the fleece back out and said, Lord, do the opposite. Make the fleece wet and the ground dry. Don't, be careful with signs and asking for signs, because if the devil knows what you're asking about, he'll give you a sign sometimes. He'll answer your signs for you. The devil will do stuff like that. So you got to be careful, because if you're not asking God, sometimes the devil is really trying to mess you up. It says, weigh the evidence and commit to a decision based on the first 6 steps and the evidence before you. Now, the last bullet is important. It says to tell God your decision before you tell anybody else. So in your prayer life, you don't just ask God, but maybe a few days later, after you've been praying about it, you've been studying your word, you've done all the other steps, you say, Lord, I have decided I'm going to go to Yale. And you say, Lord, I've made my decision. And then guess what you do? You tell God your decision, and you begin to act as if that is the right decision. When people have a decision to make and they are real slow in making a decision, we call that the paralysis of analysis. And there are people who take so long to make a decision that they paralyze their entire lives. So 3 years later, 4 years later, we have kids I went to Oakwood University with. I'm graduating, and they still haven't figured out in 4 years what they want to major in. They don't know what their course of study should be. That is called the paralysis of analysis. You're thinking too much. In life, you have to sometimes make a decision. And if you can't make a decision, so let's say you're dating someone and it's moving towards marriage, and you're courting, and you're getting to a point where it's like, okay, it's time for us probably to set up and get married or whatever it is. If you can't make up your mind about the person, in a sense, you just did. If you've been together with someone 2 years or 2.5 years, and then you're courting, and you're at a point where the next step is marriage, and you still aren't sure, then maybe what you need to do is break it off and start over. Sometimes not being able to make up your mind is telling you what you should do, and that is to walk away from the situation altogether. Make a decision. A lot of us are so scared to commit to anything. And I know that the joke is that men have a hard time committing. Men sometimes really do have a hard time committing. That's kind of true. But at some point in your life, you have to commit and make a decision. That's critical. So make a decision.